Hello, Internet. 'Tis I, your favorite drag queen turned GM, Shelly Von Miller here, and we're doing something a little bit different on the channel today. This has been a long time coming. I'm finally able to put this out because one, we were able to record it, and two, I was able to edit it. We did a roundtable. I say we, myself and two other people from the trauma response, all veteran table that was on R&R Productions, Rainbows and Razor Blades Productions, Twitch. And our first season was a 5-part miniseries using the Apocalypse Keys system from Evil Hat. And we were playing it as it was getting kickstarted and everything like that. And then a couple of months after the fact, they came out and were like, hey, grants. And I said, hey, I'm going to do that. And so I applied. Obviously we got it, and yeah, the rest is history, as it were. This is the result of that. I do want to preface that we do get into some military jargon. I did edit a lot of stuff out because we do like to ramble. Whenever it comes to veterans, we do like to ramble. So I just want to trigger warn for, like, I cuss. We cuss. It happens. I just want to say thank you again to Evil Hat. I also flubbed the name at the beginning because I am a bad person. Okay? I don't have good brain. But I want to say this right now. Thank you, Evil Hat, for letting me get this grant. Letting the table get the grant. And yeah, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. It is. There you go. Watch the video. It's like 2 hours long. Just put it on in the background, and I'll see you on the other side. Goodbye. Hey guys, how are y'all? How's it going? We haven't seen each other in a very long time, and it feels very weird.
It does.
It feels very weird. It's like, there's supposed to be a season 2 of Trauma Response.
It started.
It started.
We had an episode.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.
Yeah. But
it was the lost episode in episode 2.
Yeah, that's true. It was a lost episode in episode 2. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. And then all of season 1 is technically lost to the void. So it's like, I guess we should probably say what we're here for. Hi. This is part of the crew of Trauma Response, an all veteran table. Our season 1 was based in the game system of Apocalypse Keys by Evil Heart. I was awarded a grant by Evil Hat to do this, and I thought it was a great idea because I think, one, we can talk about the game, but I think the main reason why we're all here is because of kind of our similar backgrounds, and I guess we can get into that in a way whenever we do introduction. The GM of the group, Don, who led us through a season.
So my original idea, I was talking with a couple of the people on the season, and we realized that there were a lot of veterans out there. There's a lot of people who don't know about all the resources that veterans have, and don't know how big the nerd community in the armed services for any country, but for our case in the United States particularly, because that's where we're all from, actually has a big nerd culture. There's people who like sit there and play PlayStation and Connex boxes in the middle of the desert, so there's a bunch of people out there doing those things, and we were like, let's get all of our friends who we know have served, and maybe invite some others that we might not have met, which led us to the wonderful Shelly. So we were able to do that, to kind of just combine everybody, and I wanted something that was kind of very rules light, so that when we all met, it was meet up, have a good time, throw out a bunch of jargon and military terms and dumb military things, and all the our combined history. So like all of our ghosts of Christmas past that come back to haunt us wouldn't be overwhelmed by a rule set. So that's why we chose a Powered by the Apocalypse.
Which whenever we ran the game, was in the middle of their Kickstarter, which is crazy to think of. Yeah, I think whenever we started it, it was the quick start guide, and then they finally.
That's all we had.
in the middle of, I think, like, in the middle of the season, and we find, like, towards, like, the very end, we had the whole book. We had the whole book.
One of those things with those rules light games, similar to, like, Powered by the Apocalypse, which is what Apocalypse Keys is a skin of, it makes it easy to just pick up and play. I mean, I could have looked at any monster, any Powered by the Apocalypse, like Monster of the Week, or any of the others that are out there, as a Thirsty Sword Lesbians, all those other Powered by the Apocalypse, and grabbed moves and rules from those, and it wouldn't have made a big difference. Mm-hmm. Like, you could have played one of those and it would have fit, as long as the playbooks all have moves and all do things. Now, the only thing that would have been weird would have been like the ruins and the darks and the things like that were specific to Powered by the Apocalypse. Yeah. Like someone having to, like, have a clock that filled whenever she did things. I don't know who that was. I can't remember. Shelley.
No big deal. Before we move over to Ricardo, what branch of the military were you in?
I said Marine Corps.
Oh, Marine Corps.
Semper Fi.
Ricardo.
Who actually served? I mean,
Ricardo, tell the people who you were, who you are, and what branch of the military you were in.
Hey, she said Ricardo. I was in the Army Reserves. For those people that like to say that last word, I did spend a year in Iraq for from 2008 to 2009. So there's that. But yeah, this is, and I played the new guy on the show, but I'm actually the new guy also in the TTRPG side of things too. Like before this, I've only played like 2 or 3 systems, and all of them were done. So
yeah, I was there for Ricardo's first game as a player. Less than 3 months later, I was there for his first game as a GM.
Wow. Yep. You went head first. You went.
No, his exact words were, I could probably throw together a monster brawl.
Yeah. And then like, oh, so you're GMing now.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
We're like, I mean, right. I guess I can.
Then he went to GMing and then streaming.
Yeah. And then I streamed a couple of games.
Yeah. No, I get that fully well. I guess I should introduce myself, even though this is going to go up on my channel. Hi, my name is Shelley Von Miller. My government name, I'm not going to say my full government name, is Michelle. But I was in the Army, active duty, for 8 years. And I...
having the longest like the service.
I felt like a bullet was by me for some reason.
It reflects on her longest active service too.
Yeah. And I played Captain Grace Johnson, aka Dreadvine, and basically the leader of the group. This is the funny part. I am the odd one out. I did not know these people before I joined their game, and they're like, "You're the leader now," and I'm like, "Huh?"
I took one look at Shelley and said, "Nope, I get to torture this person."
Sounds about right.
Let's put them in charge.
Let's be real. Yeah.
Let's put the introvert in charge.
I played the Fallen, which Dreadvine is the Fallen, which is a sort of like god angel figure in the Apocalypse Keys system.
Yeah, and Ricardo, yours wasn't actually the new guy as a character concept.
No, the playbook was the monster, I believe.
Monstro, yes.
Yeah. Who's called Monstro?
The Monstro called Monstro. That's some new guy shit right there. That is some F&G shit right there.
He got the chassis that said Monstro Inc. And they thought that was the name.
Yes.
So
exactly.
Yes, the concept behind how we got into the system was real life counterparts to, goofy military organizations, because every single service has their own little area where they're like, that really exists.
Yeah.
Some of them are very black book. Some of them are, you're trying to invent teleportation in the Navy in Philadelphia. Little things like that. Every part of the military, every single service has their own weird one. And we already have a weird one that came out that, while it sounds goofy and farcical, actually has bearing. We have satellites in space. We need a space force.
Yeah.
They actually shot one down.
Yeah. Well, the thing
You know?
is the Space Force was a combination of all the services, but mostly the Air Force.
And the Air Force was technically Army to begin with, if you go way back.
I mean, if let's be real, I've met one person from the Army who was in the aerospace program, just one, and I was just like, "What is that badge?" She's like, "Oh, I'm in aerospace." I was like, "That's a thing?" I was like, "NASA?" He's like, "Yeah, I work with NASA." I'm like, and this is not even while Space Force was a thing. This was like 10 plus years ago.
Yeah.
So like, this is pre-Space Force.
Yeah, no, between but that Space Force was kind of like the Space Force goof by Steve Carell. I think it's Steve Carell who did that one, and it kind of had me thinking of what can we do. And then I watched a bunch. My wife is a big indigenous people movie, Avatar and Way of Water fan. She loved them. She thought they were great. I was watching that. I played a ton of Assassin's Creed. I was like, let me steal from all these popular culture and write a story.
As one does when running a game.
So y'all got your own little personal animuses, and and instead of warping into a historical figure's body, you warped into a different dimension. It also takes a lot from the books, the Blades of the Heroes Die series, the real world, and they go into the fantastical world and embody their hero, and they produce content for the regular world. They watch it as TV shows. And if you can't keep a studio keeping your sponsorship, you might not be allowed to go back.
I see.
And so it's like very Hollywood-esque kind of Twitch streamer, all these combo platters. It's a great fantasy series. I recommend it. It's an old one. It was well before any of these things existed. The guy was prescient, I think. I think it was actually, might have been just after WoW started.
Okay.
That series, Avatar and Assassin's Creed, were the three I kind of conjoined using this system. I was like, how am I going to explain monsters on Earth? Let's not put it on Earth.
Earth adjacent.
Yes.
Earth adjacent. As we drive through Kansas.
Well, no, we did actually have that moment where I cut them out of that because we had people who were unable to make it, so I needed to find a reason for them not to go into the alternative universe because they had not the whole team. It was very hard to continue the storylines. I'm like, well, let's steal from another genre and take a VTM thing called a memoriam and do a memoriam episode or two.
Yeah.
And so we get everybody back in so we can get the story progressing with the entire team. That was why we did that, so that no one missed out on actual story.
Yeah, we went to Gen Con, by the way. We went to Gen Con in our game. We started in Virginia, and then we made it to Indianapolis, and then we had to go to Kansas in game. So
yes, Fort Leavenworth, the one place in the military you don't want to end up.
Yeah, exactly. So
for school or the other reason,
or to be stationed there in general, just be stationed there. I know people who are stationed there, and it's like, no, why? Let's get into some other questions. You kind of answered some of my questions on fuck you. What? I didn't even give you a script. What the hell? This is all him, by the way. He's just talking. He's just a yapper.
I'm a nerd. It's what we do.
Yeah, exactly. I guess we'll go around the table, as it were. When and why did you join the military?
I'll let Ricardo take it first.
Yeah, Ricardo. When and why did you join the military?
When 2000, I signed the papers 2006. I went into basic training in 2007. The why? School, really. I wanted that grad money, school money that we get afterwards. Ended up not really using it. I used it for a little while, but it was a hard time financial wise back then too. So that helped.
Strangely, a decade earlier, I joined in 1995. I'm the old guy, but when I joined, I was pre 9/11 GI Bill, so mine sucked. but still was the reason I joined. But I used my GI Bill during 9/11.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was going to college that day when that happened. So, but when I went to the university, it was 5 or 6 years later, and suddenly the GI Bill wasn't enough.
Yeah.
It's like it went from I can cover all of my books and classes and rent on the GI Bill when I was in community college to university going, I can cover McDonald's. Yeah, I mean, it was a decent chunk of change. I didn't have to actually work while I was in school, but I did have to take out student loans because my VA rep was terrible and didn't tell me about the Texas Hazelwood Act. By the way, if you're a veteran and you're watching this, Texas Hazelwood Act.
If you're in Texas, if you start, we could get into that too. That's a whole thing. As a person who is a president of a student veterans organization, that's a whole other thing.
So I actually joined when I joined as a junior in high school. I signed up while walking through the lunch or the cafeteria area of the school I went to when I graduated. It was a public high school in here in the Houston area. Not naming where, because I don't want people to come stalking about my door because I only have enough beer for like 3 of you.
San Antonio. It's not San Antonio.
But when I was walking through there, I saw the Air Force table and the Marine Corps table. I signed my name on both lists. I said, whoever calls first, that's who I will talk to.
The Marine Corps will always call you first. Air Force does not give a fuck.
Air Force waited till after I took my ASVAB.
Oh, yeah, they'll do that too.
And I scored high, and then they called me going, we saw you scored high on your ASVAB. Like, I did, but also I signed the contract with the Marine Corps already because y'all didn't call me. And then I lost a bunch of weight and joined the military on a diet program because I was very heavy. Things happened, and then I got out in 1999.
I guess I'll say mine. So I joined in 2006 as well. I went to basic in 2006. though. I went in August of 2006 to South Carolina. It fucking sucked.
You left when I came in.
Why would you do that to yourself?
I hated myself. And then the reason why, some fun little lore about me is I worked at Walmart during Katrina and Rita, because I'm from the Houston area as well. We did not know that until Dawn and I did not know that until we met at the table. We're like, wait.
Yeah, no, and
what?
The funniest thing is the other person in our game that isn't here, that is from a different area of Texas. It's a totally separate city in the Texas Triangle. Is probably closer driving to Shelley than I am, and I'm in the same city as Shelley.
But yeah, the reason why is I was working at Walmart, making $5.75 an hour because this was 2006, and I fucked up my ankle, and I didn't have health insurance because technically, according to Walmart, I was a part-time employee doing full-time hours. I joined the Army. I didn't talk to the Marine Corps because I couldn't do a chin-up even back then. I talked to the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. Air Force never called me back. Navy was like, meh. And then the Army said, yeah, you can have whatever job. We don't care. And I said, I want this one. They're like, that's a lot of paperwork. I said, I want that one or nothing. They're like, okay.
And what did you do in the Army?
I was, funny enough, because of this game, I think this is the most hilarious part. Part of the lore of the game is they're all working in an intelligence group. I was in intelligence in the United States Army for 8 years. So it's like, so this is my life. So this was my life. I've done
and we just
this.
gave her a college degree and put her in bars and gave her bars.
Basically just gave me a college degree. My backstory was I had a college degree because I was a captain, or an LT
Started
as well.
as a lieutenant.
Yeah. Started as lieutenant, had a captain, and then I was also a Nepo baby. So there's that. She went to a service academy. She was a Nepo baby. Wait a minute. What the fuck's going on here?
I didn't know any of this, by the way, when I did this to her.
Dawn was just like, blah. I'm like, did you Google me?
Read your mail, Shelley. Hold on.
Did you Google me? What the fuck's going on?
And Ricardo, what did you do in the
Yeah, what did you do?
I was a 25 Bravo information technology specialist, which is what I do in real life.
What were
So when I
you?
went in the Marine Corps, we use a different nomenclature altogether than what y'all use. I know the Army designators because I was trained on Army base for my school. Because most of the Marine Corps schooling is done on Army bases because y'all have lots of them.
Yes.
We have
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
4 if you count 29 palms, and you shouldn't.
Who?
I went in for computer repair technician was my actual role, what I went in for. Um, but I also learned that as a left-handed person who gets absolutely no compensations by the military when you're in, um, it's not easy to shoot a rifle on a rifle range with gas in your eyeballs. It took me a long time to get qualified, so I bounced back a week in boat spaces. That's what they call them in the Marine Corps, for open spaces for schools. Filled up for the school I was going to go to. So they said, hey, pick a broad field of options like construction or other thing or other thing or other thing. I picked the construction utilities because it had things like generator repair, AC repair, electrician. I'm like, all those things would be useful in the real world. I didn't do any of those things. I fixed tents.
So I guess another question is why TTRPGs? Why are y'all? Because Trauma Response is not the only TTRPG that y'all have done or actual play that y'all have done, whether it together or separately. And the same with me. Why do you like telling stories? Why do you like telling stories in this way?
It was COVID for me. The world shut down, and I was sitting here. I got nothing to do other than work.
How did you find us, by the way? Were you watching Althaven?
Yeah. I started.
A few times at the time.
I like to say it started way back in the day when Bloodlines came out. Vampire
Oh yeah, Jake
Masquerade
did do a
Bloodlines.
playthrough of Bloodlines
Yeah. So
on Filthy Casual Fridays.
yeah. So that game kind of became like a cult classic, and from that game, years later in YouTube, I saw the one that we're doing for World of Doctors was LA by Night.
Oh, LA, yeah.
So I saw LA by Night, and I'm like, "What is this?" Like Vampire the Masquerade. So I started a couple of episodes. Oh,
Okay,
this
so
is
it's
pretty.
B-Dave's fault.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then through those searches, I came out with a couple of Pathfinder games, which led me to Althaven, which led me to their Patreon, which led me to Dawn and that crew.
Yeah, Sardo joined through the Q Times. It was Q Times at the time. They've renamed to Althaven. It's Jake and a few other folks over there out in Southern California. They play and run TTRPGs all over the place, plus a bunch of video games. Great people, good folks. But my story starts a lot farther back. I joined the Marines in 1995. I first rolled dice in 1996.
Oh, so you started your love of telling stories that way in the military.
I told stories as a kid with my parents, and like we read my parent. Like we didn't have TV a lot because we were poor, and you didn't get cable in Houston in the 80s. You didn't get cable in Dallas in the 80s. You had TV with rabbit ears in Dallas on Fridays, and so my dad and my mother would read us books like Chronicles of Narnia, Lord of the Rings. My first book report was on Steinberg's Lincoln in 3rd grade. I almost failed it because the teacher didn't realize that I picked up a book that was meant for college students because it was in my dad's library because my dad's a history teacher and professor. So I've been telling stories my whole life, but I hadn't ever played D&D because I never had an opportunity. It was never available and was never anything anybody I knew did. It wasn't like my parents thought it was the devil. They probably do, but that's beside the point. But it was just never a thing. Didn't happen at my high school that I knew of. Didn't happen at the private school I went to. Didn't happen anywhere with any of my friend groups. So when I was in the Marine Corps, I was broke again because that's what Marines are all the time. I was sitting in my barracks room and I watched a buddy of mine walking out to his car. I'm like, "Where are you off to?" He's like, "Oh, I'm heading over to such and such a place. We're gonna play some D&D. You want to come?" I'm like, "Well, I've never played." He's like, "That doesn't matter. You want to come?" I'm like, "Does it cost anything?" He's like, "No. In fact, I'll buy you pizza." I'm like, "Sold." So I went to this game and I rolled up my very first character ever, 2nd edition rogue, when it's all percentile based.
Oh.
Yeah, advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition rogue, first character ever. Had never rolled a d20 before in my life. I had a table full of percentiles on my sheet. I'm like, what do these do?
What does this do?
How do you roll percentile dice? What are percentile dice? And went on from there. Played a lot. Had gaps in the gaming adventure, of course, because you lose groups, you gain groups.
Yeah.
And then in just before COVID, I was working in West Chase.
Oh God.
At an MSP down that way, and B. Dave Walters had a, hey, if you support my Patreon for X amount of dollars, you get games with me.
Okay.
And so I joined for a free game, or a game with him, and I was like, you know what, I'll support him. He's a good guy. He's been in a bunch of stuff I like. I know he's trying to pay. He was trying to pay his bills by this Patreon, so I'm like, I'll help out.
Yeah.
And I played a bunch of games with him, met some good people, met Jake from Althaven that way, and fell into running that Discord, met Ricardo, and through various and sundry off of Althaven, met Kat and Killian, who sponsor the channel for Rainbows and Razor Blades. That's how that all came together, was just from random chance playing with B. Dave Walters. It's all B. Dave's fault.
So 2 people have said it's B. Dave's fault. B. Dave, what are you doing to the world?
Technically, Don said it for both of us.
I did.
Yeah.
But
So
B. Dave was the big
don't be
draw
mad
for
at
LA
me.
by Night, I will say.
Yeah, that's true.
And I did join the Patreon to play VTM with B. Dave.
Yeah.
That's true. B. Dave, it's your fault. I guess mine is like a combination. As a kid, I loved writing stories and telling stories and like writing and things like that. I knew about Dungeons and Dragons like in the military, but I never played it because I was trying to beat the stereotype of an intelligent soldier that is a nerd. Any one of my soldiers that like played WoW, I was like, really, guys? Really, we're feeding into this? Did you at least shower this fucking weekend? They're like, no. I'm like, okay. Trust me, it's a thing. And like Ricardo, I didn't get into playing TTRPGs. Like because until COVID, I was sitting around at my house and I was just like, eh. And I was part of a Twitch streamers, Jayla Ray, by the way, y'all should go check her out. Does not play D&D on her channel. She plays League and stuff like that. But like, she has like a bunch of nerds in her Discord server, and I was just like, oh, cool. Somebody was like, does anybody want to play D&D? I was like, sure, I'll play D&D. I've never played before, and so I started playing D&D. I rolled up my first character, and that is the.
Y'all are both new gen gamers.
Yeah.
Because you started with 5e and
I started with 5e.
Pathfinder 2e.
Yeah.
So those are both of the 2 newest generations of games.
Yeah.
If someone popped in here and said they started with Shadowrun 6th edition, I would laugh my ass off. Because that's the 3rd new generation of game, and then Cyberpunk's the other one, Cyberpunk Red. Those are the big new generation games that aren't rules light.
Yeah. And like, yeah, and I'm like, my first character was a cleric.
Oh gosh, we have 3/4 of a good adventure party.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a fighter, a rogue, and a cleric. What could go wrong?
We need a wizard.
We need the wizard.
I'm willing to bet that either Pete or James's first characters were wizards.
I feel like Pete might have said his first character was a wizard. He's played a wizard before. That would make so much sense.
Angry, grumpy old wizard.
Yes.
Who lived in a tower and started off at first level still.
But yeah, I played D&D, and then a year later I started GMing for those same group of friends, and then I decided to make this the best way for us to know our what happened in the session is recording things. So I was like, I'll just put it on whatever. I was watching Critical Role and LA by Night and things like that, and I trust me, I am in love with TTRPGs, and so whenever Dawn said, hey, who wants to play Apocalypse Keys? I was like, oh, I've never played this system before.
Then I said veterans.
And then you said, yeah, you're like, any veterans that want to play Apocalypse Keys, like, want to do this? And I was like, hey, man, you got a spot still? And the rest is history. Was I the first person to respond?
It was you and then Pete, like, literally within 10 minutes of each other.
That's crazy.
Like, Ricardo, I already knew was a yes.
Yeah.
because I was friends with Ricardo.
Yeah.
I told Ricardo he was a yes.
you bullied him into the game. Great.
And then James was part of the initial concept of it. Helped me write up the actual submission form for casting.
Mm-hmm.
And it was me, James, and someone else that all wrote it all together, and we set it all up as far as the casting thing. And then I was like, I already know Ricardo. I'll ask him personally, and he said yes. And then Pete and you apply within 10 minutes. I'm like, we're full, done,
bye,
sold.
We're good.
I'm like, that's Navy, that's Army again. We're good, we're covered. We have majority Army, and we have the other branches covered.
Yep, we're fine. We're good.
The only thing we didn't get was Coast Guard, which I would have loved to have someone
or
from the
Space
Coast Guard.
Force. A Space Force would have been nice.
It would have been hilarious, but I would have felt bad for all the jokes we made at their expense.
Yep, because we made a lot. We made a lot.
Funny thing,
Picked why you're
satellites. Come on, man. You might as well be drone pilots.
I know a few of those guys. My other question, TTRPG related, is what is your favorite thing about TTRPGs?
For me, it's the camaraderie. It's how for the longest time, it was how I got my friends to show up. I will tell the story. Y'all roll the dice and join with me in the story. Help me make it yours. And that was how my friends got together all the time. It was either that or let's all go to the bar again. And I don't play pool very well, so. But that was my main reason. And now it's a way to interact with people socially without having to put forth a whopping ton of effort of cleaning my house.
You do not want to see what's here beyond.
Yeah.
Would we roast your setup?
Down below. What about you, Ricardo? Why do you like TTRPGs? What's your favorite thing?
I'll say the same thing as Don, but I'm also gonna add is the best way that I can be part of a video game. Like I can have that feeling of being like the hero of a story, and I'm actually whatever I roll is whatever happens in that story. So I think that's the coolest aspect of it.
What about you, Shelley?
I will say it's much like so. I mean, I don't think I ever showed up in drag. I showed up in cosplay a few times.
Cosplay, but not your full drag.
Not full geesh. But yeah, much like drag, TTRPGs are like a creative outlet for me. It's a way for me to tell a story without having to write it down. It's also helped me get back into writing and enjoying writing as somebody who was an academic for a long time after I got out of the military. I mean, I was getting a history degree. I was trying to get a PhD in history, for fuck's sake. I fell out of love with writing casually. Like I was writing blogs and things like that, but like then I just fell out of love with it and everything like that. But then like TTRPGs is like you're creating this backstory and I want to write it down so I remember. And like I mean, my first D&D character is now a novel character that I'm writing. So it's like I'm falling back in love with telling stories and writing stories and being creative. And it's a creative outlet for me. With drag, it's like I started drag while I was in grad school because I needed a creative outlet that wasn't writing. So it was like, well, I can paint my face and put on a wig and act like a fucking idiot. Why not? Like, not all drag queens are idiots, but I am. I am a clown.
No, that's part of the reason why we love you.
I am a clown. I will do a funny voice for just you.
Hackathon.
Oh, no. I think I had a nightmare about that.
My actual first role-playing experience was not a board game or tabletop game. Mm-hmm. It was actually, you're from the Houston area, Shelley. You might know who they are. I was in a private school because my parents were teachers. I was able to go for free. So I was, in a way, allowed to do a lot of things that I would not have been able to do in a public school. So I got to actually go and perform with the AD players. In Houston, they are religious-based improv troupe, essentially. They do a lot of stage plays, but they also do a lot of improv, and they had a class on acting and improv. And that was our theater because we didn't have a theater teacher. So they said, if you need to take a fine arts credit, which in Texas you have to, this is how you get it. You go and pay the 80 players a certain amount of money. I don't even know what it was, but because I didn't pay it, I was a teenager, and I got to do, I think, a monologue from Death of a Salesman on a stage in front of like 100 people with a cordless cell phone or cordless phone that was actually a real one that wasn't plugged in. I was just basically monologuing to myself. It's very awkward. But that was my first true performance that I was like improv. You don't have lines in front of you. You have a script, but if you forget it, what do? You can't just, I forgot my line. There's no one to bounce off of. It's just you on a stage. And so that was like, looking back on that when I started jamming, that was like, you don't have anybody you can bounce off of. You can't forget your line. You are the line. Ricardo rolls a die and something crazy happens, or in his VTM game when he's like, oh, there's a picture of the guy?
What does he look like?
And then suddenly he does a ritual, and now I have to change the entire story, or he messy criticals the ritual, which has happened in the past. And it's like, okay, well, the story was going to do this, but now it's going to do that. It's like when I was drawing dungeons for my buddies, when we were playing on tables with dry erase markers or wet erase markers, depending on how fancy we're being that day, was like, we go left. I'm like, my entire dungeon's on the right. Well, dungeon's on the left now.
just flip it 180 degrees.
Oh, no, they were drawing it as they were playing it. So I was like, I had to basically flip mirror it in my head so that they knew so I could tell them where everything was. It was rough. But every time that they would, like, I never railroad anybody, if y'all can tell. I kind of let y'all do what you wanted to do.
You let us do a lot of shit.
I want the story to be told. I want the story to be fun, and I want you guys to feel like you own it. That's my GMing style. I want you to own the story. I'm giving you options and hooks and tons of different plot threads that you can grab onto. I have a point A and a point B. How they get between them is up to them.
Let's get into some of the actual like game itself. I know it's been a while. Start at the end, I guess, and at the door.
You had a meltdown.
I had a complete fucking meltdown
when I started describing a D20.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, let me do this and roll the D20, and I'm like, huh? What? What?
You're like, I've been rolling D6s this entire time.
What are you talking about? Please.
Yeah, no, I actually made a list of all the games that I currently was willing to run.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I will insert, because he sent me he sent everyone the list, and I'll show you the whole list here.
On there, but it's all the stuff at the time I was willing to run for this group of people that I enjoyed playing with.
I remember VTM being on there, VTM or V20 being on there, D&D,
Pathfinder, GURPS, Cyberpunk, Mutants and Masterminds, Spy, D20,
Scion.
Yeah, which is the one y'all ended up on because y'all all rolled it multiple times.
Yeah.
I gave y'all multiple options so we could end up on something. And I was like, well, here we are.
As soon as we got the list after the fact, I was like, we could have played Vampire? You mother... God damn it, guys! You don't cook us!
But it was like, I just laid them all out there because I wanted y'all to have options to play in, but I also didn't want to give you just a list of options and here's a bunch of doors with different worlds on them. I'm like, no, let's make it interesting. Let's make it random. It was like, but I'm watching you, like, I'm just describing the D20, like, I'm like, and the sides fold out and fold out and fold out until there's about 20 of them, and it's in a big sphere. And she's like, I'm going to kill you.
I'm going to murder you, Don. I'm going to throw
Ricardo's
to the
eyes
other
got
side
big
of
and
town.
Shelley reacted. Ricardo's character, though, Monstro, when he was coming to the door, what were you thinking?
Yeah, what were...
the spotlight.
Yeah. Get it away. I don't remember. I think because we were like in the story, we were trying to see if we were going in, or if we're not going in, if we're going to destroy this place, we're going to destroy that place.
Yeah, there was
So we're
that
like,
too.
yeah. So it was like, and I was still thinking, am I going to turn on these guys? Am I? So no. At the end, I was just like, this 20-sided dice thing. Let's see what's going on.
So one thing that Ricardo just brought up was in Apocalypse case, everybody is playing a monster. It's very egotistic, ego-driven, not egotistical, but ego-driven, very high ego, very high id-driven monster. They have their own wants, their desires, their needs. And one way we played into that was, are you in control or is the monster?
Mm.
Yeah. Very almost a VTM hunger mechanic style of who's driving. Like, and a lot of times, unfortunately for Shelly, her dice hate her. At the worst possible time, the wrong one would be driving. I think it affected you the most out of everyone on that mechanic.
Yeah.
Because you were also you were the one who was you were the driver of the story. Because you kept doing something. I mean, Ricardo's driving of the story was falling out of the back seat a lot.
It was so good. I will say that is one of my favorite highlights is like, will Ricardo stay in the little bumper car seat outside the car as we're flying through? Like, I'm like, yeah, let's see how it works. Finally, you're like, fuck this, I'm gonna strap myself to the top of the car. I'm like, okay.
Drivers tend to be the people who have to make the most die rolls, which means you're most affected by the random chance. James he's a great side character, like a sidekick kind of thing. Like, he was right there beside you all the time. And
like
played
a
his
good
character
sergeant
very
major,
well.
like a good sergeant major.
Yeah. He played his character very well, both sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
And his interactions with that were choice, but he always chose his moments.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like he was constantly in the driver's seat of the story. He was just like, oh, it's going quiet. Let me throw a pun in and make Shelly react.
Don't mind
Pete had
puns.
the most antagonism. He had the most conflict in the story. Internal conflict, which drove story to a degree as well.
Yeah, I think with Pete's character, the damn ex-girlfriend is so iconic.
His choice.
I love the fact that you didn't, you voiced it sometimes, but then you passed the voice to all of us just to piss off Pete. I'm just like, yes!
Although, to say this out loud, just so everybody is
not
aware,
to piss off Pete.
I did get consent from Pete for that to happen.
Yeah.
So one of the key things when you're GMing, when you're doing something like that is going to affect a character in a way that could be antagonistic, that is outside of die rolling and combat, or story, like not just plot-based story where like, hey, you met the king and the king didn't like you very much, you're going to jail. That's okay. That's part of story. But like, you're taking a key character aspect of their character. Like, if I was going to say that ranger's bow talks and now your friend's using it, you'd be in the voice. Like, I want to get your consent first. You should get that kind of consent as much as if you were trying to do something that would be nearing their line or veil, which we did have a full consent sheet. What was everybody okay with? Big time on that. I actually talked about that today on another server.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we did that when I passed it to Ricardo and to Shelly and to James and everyone else for Pete's sidekick. I did have Pete buy in before it happened. I'm like, Pete, if you're not okay with this, we don't do this.
What is the stupidest voice that I could do just to be like, yeah,
it's an iconic voice that has come up on other servers.
What? Shut up.
Chad and Killian think it's hilarious.
They
both make the voice when we're talking in some other chats.
No
and stuff.
Freaking way. That is hilarious.
And I'm going to brag on Shelly a bit because she is the reason that we're here and the reason we got the grant and everything else. She did the work on that. She put it in work for us, and I appreciate her.
And I didn't tell them that I was doing this until I submitted this, by the way.
Yeah. But I appreciate her, and I want to give her all of her flowers.
No.
Yes, all the flowers. I mean, but as a player, from someone who I never met, who is someone who I would have in any of my games going forward, it is amazing to meet.
Don't be fucking nice to me, Don. How dare you?
I will be nice to
How
you. You know
dare
why I'm
you?
nice? You know why I would have you in all my games? So I can
The
mess
buy
with
it.
you.
So you
Yeah.
mess with me? Do the voice! Do the voice!
He's nice in public.
Yeah, he's
I'm
nice in
nice to
public.
Ricardo,
We're
too.
recording this. That's why he's
It's
nice.
weird. Ricardo, you're still not the best bird. It's the kind of interplay that makes TTRPGs fun. Ricardo and I banter, and we both, like I said, because of our similar combined heritages of them being in the military, picking on each other isn't like, if I don't pick on Ricardo, he might think I'm mad at him.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say this. There's that trope going around of, not going around, but like there's a trope of like, in the military, if people do not pick on you, they do not like you. If I don't pick on you, like if I'm not like, you know, being like, oh, what are you doing? Like, are you serious? Come on. Are you really gonna do that? Like, if I'm not antagonizing you, basically it's because I want you to be the best person ever. Like, you're gonna be in a foxhole with me, quote unquote. We don't foxhole anymore.
Welcome to the Marine Corps. Yes, we do.
Basic Army, we don't foxhole. Okay, or at least I didn't foxhole outside of basic training. Outside
a little
of basic,
bit of that in basic, yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
dug
that's
plenty,
it.
thank you. I dug him in the desert into clay. It was not fun.
Yeah. I will say this, like, you want to bring out the best of the person who's going to be right next to you, whether it's in a cubicle or in a foxhole or in a truck or anything like that. So, I mean, I think it's great that we're able to rib on each other, and we're all, like, out before this table came together. I mean, I didn't know any of y'all, and I'm glad that I've met you all. And I would have y'all in my own games, and I would, you know, and I would play in any of your games, because I trust y'all. There is an amount of trust that's, you know, allotted with TTRPGs, because you have to trust that these people are going to respect your boundaries, respect the choices that you make, and then also call you on your bullshit whenever you're being an idiot.
Ever put you in a position where you were uncomfortable, I would expect to be called on it.
Oh yeah, I would have been like,
But I also took your list and I said, okay, I want to get close to their line so they're uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable in a way that makes them angry or feel violated or anything like that. I want them to be enough uncomfortable where the story is going to be progressed.
Yeah.
Because being comfortable when you succeed at everything, there's no story there. Yeah. Success is boring.
Not a good story.
Yeah.
Success is boring. Failure is story happens.
We had a lot of failures on that at that table. We had a lot of failures.
So whenever you like thinking about what is the best thing your character, because that's what my character would do. Like, no. What's the worst decision your character can make in this instance? Will it affect other people at your table in a way that's negative? If so, then the answer is no. That's part of your flowchart. But if no, then the answer is yes. Do the stupid thing.
I'm always the proponent of do the stupid thing.
If your goal is to be a dragon and you're going to play a character class that your primary weapon is based off of a bomb, and you don't take the character archetype that allows you to be better with bombs because you want to be a dragon so bad, and the other one works better for being a dragon, do that. Write that story, because then it's funny when you throw your bombs and it hurts your friends.
We're going to exclude you from this conversation, Don, because you didn't play a character. I
played all of them.
I know. Why did you choose the character you chose, Ricardo? Because you chose the monster.
Actually, my character was the last. He was just called Monstro. Because I was going to use the monster, but somebody else picked it, and then I went to the last.
Oh, the last, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was a cool story, kind of Superman-esque, be the last one of your race that you know of, at least. And it's just stuck in this world. So the backstory is that the first person that found the Fallen said, "Oh, this is a monster" in Spanish, and so that's why I named him Monstro.
And that's also why I made him play the FNG in the real world. Because he's playing the last one in the monster world,
That would make sense.
and the new one in the real world.
That makes a lot of sense. That's awesome. I like that. I like that, like, kind of symmetry. I picked the Fallen. I don't know why I picked the Fallen. I thought it was just cool. I think that was it.
This is fucking cool.
This is cool. I fell. Okay. All right. How can I? And I it was also like some of the mechanics also with the Fallen that I thought were really cool, especially since whenever we got like the lowdown of like who we're gonna be, I was just like, oh, okay, so I'm in charge, so I need somebody who's like a high charisma type of person. If I'm gonna be a leader, like, okay, I can enchant this person.
I've actually played with her.
Yeah.
I
have no charisma. I have no charisma. I put on makeup and then I have charisma. Outside of that, nothing. I'm a weirdo. I'm a little mole.
Weirdos have charisma.
Huh?
Weirdos have charisma.
That's
just a weird charisma.
Just weird ass charisma.
But I think when y'all picked your characters, I was watching along and saw how that interplay was happening. Like, because picking characters in this game, you get playbooks, and technically you can have the same playbook, but I was recommending against it because we had so few players compared to the number of playbooks. Like, there's so many options. Somebody picks one, unless you really, really, really wanted to play that one, pick something else. And then how they worked it out, I didn't have to step in at all. I didn't have to say, no, you can't play that.
Yeah. I think there was another one that I can't remember, but I was just like, I could totally play this one. But then somebody else picked it, and I was like, oh, okay, well, this was my other option, so I don't mind that. That's cool.
I think you were going to play what Pete was playing. One of y'all were.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And I think James was James was playing the Darkness or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And I think that was one that the other one you were thinking about, Shelly, was the one that James ended up playing.
Oh, yeah, because I wanted to be just totally emo. I wanted to play my own archetype of just being an emo kid. I was just
and Ricardo was going to play what Pete was going to play. That was your first choice, and Pete had bought into it really hard. But no, the way those interplays worked when they were building it out was kind of how I decided what role and what they basically what they picked for their characters. I'm like, here's what your character is. Also, James is the other old guy in our group, so he's older than me actually. That's why I made him the old guy, enlisted guy.
I felt bad. You were like, he's on 20 different medications. He's breaking down. I think at one point he might have shat himself.
That was him. I did not make him do that. But no, he was playing the old grizzled sergeant major who'd been in every American conflict since Grenada.
He should have retired 10 years ago. Yeah. He's still in.
Should have retired 20 years ago. What are you talking about?
That concept and idea on my Chief Warrant Officer 5 when I was in.
Need you to say
my
more.
Chief Warrant Officer 5 was in his mid to late 60s.
In the 90s?
Uh-huh.
So he was in Korea.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was enlisted in Korea.
Jesus.
I don't know if he was drafted or volunteered. He didn't tell us. But he went in, he had been in forever. Because he had already been through, I'm like, when did you go to warrant officer school? He's like, I was a master sergeant. And so you were in for 15 years before you went to warrant officer school. He's like, yeah. And he's CW5. You don't get to CW5 easy.
No.
No. CW5 is the equivalent of colonel. It's like you up there.
Yeah.
And
you have to know how to drink coffee just right. No, I'm just kidding. You have to know how to put your hand in your pocket just right and look at people with such disdain, like.
And chief warrant officers across services. It doesn't matter if they're chief warrant officer in the Navy, Army, Marine Corps, or Air Force. They're all former enlisted, generally speaking, and that's what they are. In the Army, they were using warrants to get enlisted people to fly helicopters. In the Marine Corps, they were using it just to give them an option and also to fly helicopters. Because you can't fly in the United States military unless you're an officer, because that's stupid. The chief warrant officer was an old guy, and we're sitting out at the smoking table smoking cigarettes because that's what Marines do, and they have nothing else to do, is kill themselves slowly. And he would come running past us and then run past us again and then do pull-ups next to our smoking tables.
Freaking Captain America. Like,
Yeah.
on your left!
Exactly. It's
On
like,
your left!
and then like we're like, well, that's because you never smoked. He's like, oh no, I smoked for 30 years.
My third wife told me to quit, or she divorced me.
And but he was like, he got mad at us one thing. He's like, he stole some. He didn't steal it. He acquisitioned someone's pack of cigarettes before a company run, and he ran in formation with a cigarette in his mouth the entire time, lit and smoking, and outran all of us.
Of course.
I was basing the Sergeant Major concept off of, and I told James about it beforehand. He's like, "That's great, let's do it."
How did you like Apocalypse Keys, and would you play it again? And would you recommend it to people?
Have recommended it to people. Would play again. Would probably want to understand the rules better before I ran it again.
Real.
Because I was running off the quick start, and I didn't have an actual PDF in front of me. I was running off of a Roll20 freebie, claim this purchase, or claim this as your pro reservation, and trying to read all the rules in there, and hoping I got them right, and squeezing in some Monster of the Week and other Powered by the Apocalypse things that I knew of in the back of my brain to flesh out the rules.
I have recommended people to Power by the Apocalypse if they don't like D&D and stuff like that, if they want something that's like super easy to learn. And yeah, I would play it again. I would recommend it. I loved it. I thought it was really cool because it was that was my first non D&D. That was my first non D&D game.
Ellie asked me, she's like, "Are we playing Monster of the Week or are we playing Apocalypse Keys?" I'm like, "Yes."
And then
like, what?
That led me to play Vampire and like other TTRPGs. So I was just like, oh, okay, cool. I like this. I like this a lot. What about you, Ricardo?
Yep. Same. Yes to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I've recommended it. I would play again. And it's easy to play, easy to pick up. Well, all the playbooks are pretty different and awesome in their own way. So
I would say my one recommendation though is if you're going to play it in any way, shape, or form, when you pick your playbook, read your moves. Know what they do. Know what your basic moves are in addition to your fancy moves, because you're going to use your basic moves probably more often. Definitely. You also might want to know what Ruin does before you start running this game. Might be a good idea.
Yeah, might be a good idea. Wrap it up here. We'll go down the line. Ricardo, tell people where they can find you, and whether it be the social media and other games that you play on the internet.
Sure. My name is Ricardo. I am on the Twitter/Xverse as Ricardo Riv J. You can find me there. You can also see me in the Reroll Twitch channel on one Monday a month with Don GMing. We play the Don Pierce game he was talking about earlier. There's D20 Saves with Don again also, and a couple of others. We play a few Pathfinder games in there. And hopefully we can get back to this Scion game with this trauma response game that I'm really looking forward to get back to, hopefully.
I'd love to. Don, go ahead.
And I'm Don at Don Von Dolan. That's the Twitter X thing, Bob, or Facebook, or LinkedIn, or wherever the heck. I'm always me. I have not shied away from who I am anytime, anywhere, because if you can find me, I will give you a beer. But I am on D20 Saves, which is at twitch.tv/D20 Saves. We play every other Friday and every other Saturday. Our recordings go live for our Stolen Fates actual play, which is in an Adventure Path by Paizo, running the Pathfinder 2 system, and our other actual play is Gatewalkers, another Paizo Adventure Path. They are different levels. Gatewalkers is low levels. Stolen Fates is a higher level campaign, both dealing with various and weird places around the Paizo-verse of Galarian. And then I play on twitch.tv/reroll, which is where I run Dampiers, which is our Oops All Dampiers. It's Dampiers with a $sign instead of an S, because it's funny to me, and it was funny to the person who suggested it to me, who read a novel called Vampires with a $sign. But those are the things that we're on, and along with being on Rainbows and Razor Blades for this game, whenever we should be able to reconvene.
And I mean, this is my channel, so y'all know me, but I'm Shelly Von Miller. You can find me everywhere on the internet at Shelly Von Miller. I am in a Vampire the Masquerade game called Endless Elegy Second City Blues. You can catch it on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central on twitch.tv slash Mr. _Mephisto. You can actually.
Why would he have a short one? Why would he have a short one?
I don't know. And then you can find me on my own D&D game that I DM called Through the Looking Glass, an Exandrian Adventure. You can get the playlist here. Here you go. Playlist. Poof. And yeah, I want to thank. I guess let's do this. I want to thank Evil Hat for giving us an awesome game, and also giving us the opportunity to do this, to catch up, and yeah, it's been great. I'm really excited, and yeah, I'll see you on the internet, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.